He's a billionaire, an entrepreneur, and an investor committed to his country's future. Born into the family controlling the vast Orascom conglomerate, Egyptian telecoms tycoon Naguib Sawiris made his mark by going to countries like Algeria, Iraq, and even North Korea.
I like it when people tell me your strategy was to go into. I had no choice. It was not by a strategic decision. It was by choice, because if you wanted to compete against the Deutsche Telecoms, the France Telecoms, the Vodafones of the world, I mean, who are you to compete against these giants? So you needed to go where they're not going to go.
Within less than a decade, he was running the Middle East's biggest mobile phone operator. In the years to come, Sawiris acquired ailing Italian wireless carrier Wind Telecom for $16.5 billion. This was followed by a $6.5 billion merger with Russia's Vimpelcom to create the world's sixth biggest mobile phone firm.
His risks are weighted, moderated, calculated, measured, and at the end of the day, all in all, his bets are successful.
He's always looking for countries which accept and are welcoming his kind of ventures. Bear in mind, he's not just an Egyptian, but he's a very successful businessman.
In recent years, Sawiris has also emerged as a force to reckon with on Egypt's turbulent political scene. In the wake of the 2011 revolution, he founded the Free Egyptians Party in a bid to secure a more stable future for his country.
Thank God he did this, because he encouraged other parties to go on parties that are on the secular, liberal, civil side, and not religious and not old regime side.
We want to see Egypt in a real democratic rule.
Naguib Sawiris was born into Egypt's wealthiest family on May 10, 1954, in the southern city of Sahag. The family empire was established by Patriarch Onsi, who founded a construction company in the 1950s that grew into one of the country's biggest contractors. Today, the Orascom Group is a global conglomerate with interests ranging from construction and development to telecoms. Youngest brother Nassif, also the richest man in Egypt, runs Orascom Construction Industries, the company originally set up by their father. Samih is the chairman and CEO of Orascom Development, which builds hotels and resorts. The eldest of the three, Naguib Sawiris heads Orascom Telecom Media and Technology. Joining the family business was inevitable, but it was never taken for granted.
It was this trauma of having a successful dad, so you don't want to be you want to be successful on your own. You don't want your success to be attributed to your dad. Whether you like it or not, your success partly is attributed to your dad because he raised you. He put you in a good school. They gave you love and attention. So you have to attribute your success to your parents anyhow. But I had a very stringent way of looking at that. I didn't want people to say, okay, his dad is well off, so that's why he could afford to go to this school in Zurich. So I wanted to depend on myself. And I worked in washing cars, I worked in hotels, night porter, I sold jewelry in the street, false jewelry, I tried to prove, and I managed to pay for my education for the first 2-3 years, which was a good job. My dad was sending the money every month, and then one day he went to the bank to check and he found all the money there. He got panicked, Then he told me, listen, I didn't send you here to wash dishes and wash the cars. It's good that you're doing that, but you need to promise me that this will not affect the real purpose you came here for.
Sawiris took his father's advice and quickly found success.
I was working with my dad even during my studies. So my dad depended on me for many transactions in Europe. So that's what got me really liking the business. I used to go with him for meetings. Out of Zurich, I used to handle his banking relations. But when I started when I graduated and I started my business, I wanted to start on my own. So I went with a friend of mine and we started a small company, maybe with $5,000 each that we have saved. And this again the purpose was for me to have a fresh start, so to prove myself. And then after 2.5 years, I had made $250,000. 23 years old, I was the richest guy in Egypt at that time. Because at that time, I was the richest 23-year-old in Egypt. Let's put it this way. My dad came to me then one day and said, listen, I mean, you've done this and we are friends, you know, so let's just come and try and work with me. I told him, okay, I'll come and work with you, but I'll have to start my own stuff. He said, fine.
Mona Zaki is the founder and CEO of Global Strategic Consultants and a long-time family friend. She believes the brothers' success is down to the influence of their parents.
They have two beautiful role models, the father and the mother. The father on a business side, extremely successful, extremely business-oriented, of course, and well scientific in his approaches. And the mother is a good mother. She has brought up her sons in a Christian way, you know, love God and love one another. And this another can be anybody.
The Sawiris family hails from Egypt's Coptic Christian minority, who make up around 10% of the population. Sawiris often speaks about the importance of faith in his life. Coupled with hard work and a good education, failure simply wasn't an option.
First, you need to ask the ingredients of success. So we had really, to be totally honest, we had no reason to fail. The parents were loving parents, very attentive. Each one has a different contribution. So my dad put in us this love of business, excitement, you know, and his reputation was a big asset for us when we started. His morals, very strict morals. And my mom, she planted in us all three, the love and fear of God. And then they put us in the best education. So the formula really, you had no excuse to fail.
With the three brothers out of university and a business-friendly government in Egypt, the family firm began to flourish. Patriarch Onsi returned to Cairo in 1976 following a 10-year exile in Libya. Orascom's early years had been dampened by the socialist government of Gamal Abdel Nasser, which nationalized the business. Following his return, Onsi set out to rebuild Orascom, seeing as Egypt's new president, Anwar Sadat, welcomed private investment.
So we came back at a very opportunistic time when Sadat has just changed the system in Egypt from socialism to open door, and economy started to boom, opportunities were there. And we came back armed with a very good education, German education, backed by hard work, because in Zurich you could not finish Chicago University or the Polytechnic if you were a not serious person, you know, so we were put under a lot of pressure. Then we come up here and people are a little bit more relaxed, they are not so disciplined like that, so the competition even on a one-to-one basis was much more easier for us.
Sawiris joined the family business in 1979. He initially set up a unit that built railways and later went into IT, which saw him invest in Egypt's first internet service provider in 1994. It wasn't long before he began snapping up telecom licenses across the Middle East and countries that only the brave chose to invest in. The Sawiris family is Egypt's richest and one of its most influential. The Orascom Group was established by Patriarch Onsi in the 1950s. Today, it's a global conglomerate with interests in telecoms, construction, and development. It's also the largest private employer in Egypt and makes up more than 2/3 of the EGX30's market value. Eldest son Naguib Sawiris heads Orascom Telecom, Media and Technology. He was the man behind Egypt's first internet service provider and its first mobile operator, Mobilnet. In just over a decade, Orascom Telecom was operating in 17 countries across the Middle East, Asia and Africa, with over 100 million subscribers. Rami Antaki, the former vice president of Orascom Telecom, recalls the company's strategy.
We were covering 500 million, 500 million population all over these countries, employing over 20,000 employees. The business model was based on going to countries that nobody wants to touch, mostly risky countries. We have been in Yemen, risky in the scale of the World Bank, of course, then you can appreciate what kind of risk it is. But however, if we take the scale of the World Bank, it's considered as risky countries. Yemen, Iraq, deploying a network in the middle of the war. Zimbabwe, we have been in Algeria during the civil war in 2000. North Korea, of course.
I go to these countries, like I'm in North Korea, people are, why aren't you, because I'm helping the people there. There is a big difference between punishing governments who are dictatorships and non-democratic, and punishing the people. You know, I know that my work in North Korea has given happiness to around 2.5 million people today who can call their mothers, their sisters, who feel that they're back to life, who are communicating. So this is what we need to do, you know, and when you open up the communication, you open people's minds and they can, I'm not saying that I went there to make a revolution, of course I'm doing good, but I know that I'm doing good, I know that this good will enlarge and make happen. These people are trapped as much as in any system when the system is not so open, you know. And I'm actually one of the advocates of change there. Every time I get an opportunity to meet the leadership there, I tell them, listen, you need to change, I want to help you change, I want to see your country as a strong country that is not independent, that is part of the whole world, that is not in animosity with anybody.
However, Sawiris' buying spree came at a price. By 2002, Orascom Telecom was close to collapse with a debt of $2.2 billion. To get back into the green, Sawiris sold his Jordanian mobile unit to Kuwait National Telecommunications for $420 million, along with most of his operations in sub-Saharan Africa. The move paid off, and the following year, he invested $160 million in a new Iraqi mobile phone service, Iraqna. He sold it 4 years later for a hefty $1.2 billion to Kuwait's Zain Group. In 2005, Sawiris changed his strategy and started to consider more developed markets. His $16.5 billion acquisition of Wind Telecom, Italy's third biggest mobile phone firm, made history for becoming Europe's largest leverage buyout.
I leveraged my own net worth by having a high, like 40% in the European sphere and 60% in Africa. It was done with that purpose in mind, but mainly because we discovered that this Wind, which was the third entrant, had a big potential if rightly managed. And it was managed through as a subsidiary of an electricity company, which was not focused on telecom, which wanted to exit that anyhow. It was a one-time opportunity in life, and we took it, and I took a very big risk, you know, and everybody laughed at me again. He said, why is this guy, I mean, they had pictures in Italy, me coming on a camel with a sacks of money and saying, you know, he bought Wind, which is Wind means empty. There is nothing there. He was taken for a ride, and they made all the jokes about me that I bought a very bad company that will never, because it was perceived as the loser of the market, you know. And we took it, and in 40 years we doubled the EBITDA. We doubled the value of the company. What we paid, we paid most of the debt, a quarter of the debt or a third of the debt premature. We paid it in advance, you know.
2009 saw Sawiris face another challenge. He found himself embroiled in a row with the Algerian government over his most lucrative unit, mobile operator Djezzy. According to the Algerian government, Djezzy had failed to pay $600 million in taxes. Sawiris had to find a partner for Orascom. In late 2010, he signed a $6.5 billion deal to merge most of his telecom assets with Russia's VimpelCom. This will create the world's sixth largest mobile phone firm with 193 million customers.
The sale to VimpelCom was a forced sale because the Algerians, they saw that we were making too much money in the country, and the government and the presidents there and everybody decided that this is too much money they're making, and they started cracking on us and tried. They imposed again the same trick the Muslim Brothers did here. They put a fictitious tax on us, and they prevented us from sending our dividends back. They shut and they prevented us from importing our equipment. They just went. They saw that this is a big prey, and they said we want to be part of that, and they moved. And was a lot of involvement. I don't want to speak of it, you know, but it was all motivated by the wrong reasons, you know, and they just took over, and now we are in arbitration with them. But they forced us to do a sale because, you know, it was clear that they've destroyed my dream, you know. I still have this, soreness against the regime there because they cracked us. They used all the tricks of power a regime has to crack on us and force us out, you know. So we had to sell to VimpelCom. Which was sad for me because my dream was to create the first Arab-African company with a big role, and they destroyed that dream. You know.
Sawiris has since taken a step back from his day-to-day running of his business, but he's once again treading into territory that many steer clear of: politics.
He's playing a very big role on this political scene because we need people like Naguib to be involved in politics. As an Egyptian, I need to see more of Naguib Sawiris in different parties, and he's also a role model, not only for the youth, the Egyptian young, revolutionary youth, but also for businessmen. And there is always a very thin line between business and politics. So, and Naguib succeeded in respecting this line.
The people of Egypt have spoken, their voices have been heard, and Egypt will never be the same.
After 18 days of protests, the 30-year rule of Hosni Mubarak came to an end. In the months to follow, Naguib Sawiris set up the Free Egyptians Party. It served as an alternative to the Islamist movement of the Muslim Brotherhood, which was fast gaining popularity in a post-Mubarak Egypt.
We were forced here to choose either one devil or the other devil. So either a dictator or extreme religious military terrorists. So these are the two choices, you know. So I supported the revolution in January 25th out of this feel for real love of democracy and freedom. But I saw very soon all these young Egyptians who were beautiful people, full of good intentions, intelligent, heartily, freedom fighters. They left the square, went home, thought that the mission accomplished, and left it void for the forces of evil, forces of fascist religious forces to come in and take over. And then these forces forced us back into the dungeons of the Middle Ages. They put another autocratic fascist dictator regime. They violated all the rules of democracy. They violated all the rules of our constitution. So it was not a choice. I'm just like someone who's not going to see something wrong and say it's none of my business.
Ibrahim Hegazi is a marketing professor at the American University in Cairo. He believes the party emerged at a crucial time.
He never stepped into being in front of the cameras in terms of leadership of the Free Egyptians political party, but he supported the initiative, he supported liberal thinking, because again, Egypt should never be separating between I am a Christian and I'm a Muslim. We live together, we've been together, we build the history together. Nobody can deny either of the two the right to speak, the right to be involved in the decision-making process. And I think this was a very, very pointed and timed move.
On July the 1st, 2012, Mohamed Morsi was sworn in as Egypt's first freely elected president. However, his one-year rule was mired by political controversy and economic instability. Sawiris had spent much of this time in self-imposed exile after the Morsi government hit the family business with extortionate taxes.
I was very close from him during his exile period. As you know, he was banned from the country for more than 1 year, he and his family. And he was in between New York, London, Paris, and other cities. I was with him and his family, his dad's. And I can tell you one thing, he was very, very sad, far from his homeland.
He stayed with his mind and heart with Egypt. And the obvious thing, you know, one of the interviews that he made in the United States and Canada, he cried when he was talking about the state of Egypt at that time and how he wanted to help Egypt. And so that's why I don't think that he left.
الأسرة بقى الزوجة والأولاد، هل أيضا النقل خارج مصر والابتعاد عن مصر كان سهلا؟
لا طبعا. وبعدين يعني مش قادر أقول لك العيال متضايقين جدا طبعا. عيال مصريين أصليين يعني. ما يعرفوش يقعدوا من غير ملوخية ومن غير يعني. أنا مطلع عيالي مصريين بجد، ما طلعتهمش خواجات يعني.
Morsi had failed to meet the expectations of his countrymen. Once again, the Egyptian people took to the streets. The June 30th uprising was described as the biggest demonstration in the history of mankind. Millions across the country gathered, demanding Morsi's resignation. Sawiris soon returned to Egypt. Along with his brothers, he pledged to invest billions of dollars into the country's economy. The markets responded, and the announcement signaled a positive message for investors.
No investor, in his calm mind, should invest in a country of the people of the country are still scared. Because the people of the country, they know the risks better than the people who are outside. They know the system better. So if they're scared to invest their own money here, why would a foreign investor come and invest here? He should be cautious, So I really believe that the opportunities here now are big. 3 years of total chaos. 3 years of not a single drop of investment. The population is growing, services are deteriorating, and many companies went bust, valuations are low. For any wise investor, that's the best time to come in now. So when I pledge $1 billion, okay, I need to put the money somewhere, and I took the first opportunity because when I do this, when I invest in this company, it's a listed company, the Egyptian Stock Exchange takes a different shape. And as I was right, it's exactly happened like that. So that was the reason.
Naguib and his brothers, both of them, the other two, the three together, their companies stock in the Egyptian stock market. At least 40% of transactions is related to the three companies. So when investors and stock market players, they look and see the family is coming back, the Orascom, the Sawiris family, and the Orascom companies are coming back to re-inject their funds in Egypt. That's a very, very positive sign for the Egyptians that Egypt now is much better than before. Egypt is welcoming the investment, climate is much better, and that's why he is an indicator.
The key to this also lies in bringing down the divide between North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. And Sawiris has an unorthodox solution to encourage trade.
It needs progressive thinking, it needs alignment with the business community, that they should go and see opportunities and it needs the government of Egypt should issue an export credit guarantee. Like the government should tell the Egyptian business community, listen, if you go to Africa and invest, you cover your commercial problems, we will cover you politically. It means if there's any, like what happened to me in Algeria. What happened to me in Algeria was purely political. So if I had an insurance from my government, they would reimburse me for a nationalization or from any attempt like that, And that we should find mechanisms to encourage the Egyptian business to invest there.
Whether political and economic stability will return to Egypt is yet to be seen. What's certain is that Sawiris will continue fighting for his country.
If someone will ask me, okay, what do you want the world to say about you when you die? Or what do you want inscripted on your grave, if there's anything inscripted on it? So I would like to have the following phrase, which actually two phrases. So one would say, here lies a man that nobody ever managed to bend his arm. The second phrase, which is new actually, because till last week it was only one phrase. The second one is, here lies a man that never hesitated to fight, even at his own cost.